Hi everyone, welcome to today's AMA with the topic DePIN Reshuffle, how OKZOO uses AIoT plus in-house hardware for a dimensionality reduction attack. I'm your host today, Potato, and we're about to dive into a next-gen DePIN project that's bridging the physical and digital world in a whole new way. So meet OKZOO. So what is OKZOO? So OKZOO is pioneering AIoT, the fusion of AI and decentralized IoT to build a massive real-world data network focused on environmental sensing. But this isn't your typical DePIN setup. OKZOO blends custom-built P mini hardware with a fun gamified V2 pet AI app, where your virtual pet actually responds to your environment. So this vertical integration, combining smart devices, gamified AI, tokenomics, and hardware manufacturing, is OKZOO's core innovation. It creates a sticky, user-driven ecosystem powered by the AIoT token and PNFTs with real utility, real incentives, and real-world impact. With that, today we're thrilled to have Joseph, OKZoo's co-founder, on stage. So, hi, Joseph. Could you please, say hi to the audiences?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me well?
You're good.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Joseph. I'm the co-founder of OKZOO. Been in crypto for over 10 years. I got started in the crypto publication sector. So I was the chief editor of
Mm.
Telegraph for a while. I was in the VC space for 2.5 years. And yeah, we started OKZOO last year after we realized that DePIN was getting a little boring, and with the in-house mass manufacturing factory and the resources that we have, we thought we could revolutionize how DePIN works and also introduce a new concept of DePIN called AIoT.
Nice. Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you very much for coming on to today's AMA. So let's kick it off with the first question. Okay, Joseph, let's start from the top. What exactly is OKZoo's AIoT concept, and how does it differ from traditional DP models? And what's the core innovation, and which industry pain points is it designed to solve?
Yeah. So when we first looked into DePIN, we thought that there are several interesting DePIN projects, but at the same time, most of the DePIN projects in crypto are quite boring in the sense that the DePIN devices are not designed very well. In a lot of cases, there are DePIN devices that are not even devices. Maybe it's a charger with a chip inside, or it's like a little router with a chip inside, but it's just not something that people can carry around, people can play with, and people can do meaningful things with on a day-to-day basis. So we started to think about, well, what are some of the interesting things that pin devices could do? What is a way to maximize that potential? And what are some ways that we can actually contribute um, real things to the real world with this network of devices? So we came up with the AIoT concept, which is short for AI plus Internet of Things, where we have a device. It looks like your phone, but it's much smaller than a phone. It has a big screen in it, and we installed micro sensors within the device that collect environmental data, both street level and household environmental data. So things like air pollution, noise pollution, CO2 levels, humidity levels. And we thought that once we have sort of a massive network of devices in every country, in every city, then these devices would actually contribute real world data, real world environmental data, raw data into the network, and it would actually be able to power very unique and interesting AI applications that help people look at this data. For example, if people have very sensitive body types to air pollution, or if people have sensitivity towards CO2 or humidity levels, they'll be able to check all the data that comes through our network and see, okay, what is the air pollution in this specific street in LA, or what is the air pollution like in this specific street or this specific area within Tokyo. So yeah, so we designed this network so that people would be able to provide crucial environmental data from wherever they're from. And I think that's where we drastically differ from DePIN in the sense that our core innovation lies in the devices itself. So, having those micro sensor nodes within the devices was actually really difficult. Took us over a year to actually design and put the right sensors and the right chips in the devices to make sure that these devices can actually collect these kind of environmental data. And also, it was harder than we thought to be able to integrate AI applications into the devices. For example, the OKZoO 2, people are able to play with virtual AI pets within the device, and so I think that was something that we are very excited about. And in terms of like industry pain points that the devices solve, I think the main application of these devices will come when there are some sort of, uh, I would say, natural disasters or emergencies or urgent situation. For example, like a wildfire or earthquake, which I experienced 2 weeks ago, where people will be able to use the device to say, look, the air pollution because of this fire is really bad in this area, and the device will be able to consistently give that data in real time so that people can see. And I think that is actually really important data that people cannot get anywhere, that people can get from OKZoO. For example, when COVID hit, um, a lot of teachers and students and staff members couldn't really go into small spaces or classrooms because they couldn't really tell if the CO2 levels in the classrooms were high or low. And so when we have OKZoO devices, we can actually check. And you can also check in many different areas, not just in one area. So I think, especially in sort of natural disasters and emergencies, people will be able to see important raw environmental data that is accurate, that is not biased, and there will be a lot of applications that can be powered on top of that.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Actually have a question. I do understand why do you actually incorporate AIoT concept, and since DePIN technology is usually being created for, you know, gamifies or like social fies or like health fi, being able to track your sleep or like track your steps. But what inspired you to jump into environment though? Is it because how you mentioned that of COVID, or like as you mentioned, being in a classroom and then you get to have data for like the CO2 and stuff? Is that why?
Yeah, I think for me, like the only interesting DEPIN project out there is Helium because you can actually get connected to cellular networks using the devices. And I think the main thing that we wanted to do was provide an actual use case for DEPIN and provide an actual use case of AIoT that can contribute to the real world. And when you actually start to think about data sets, basically information in general that could be useful to the real world, it becomes very limited. And I think environmental data is one of the sources of data that I think is pretty untapped in a global scale, and especially in sort of countries in the West as well, but also in Asia, like Thailand, even Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Malaysia. I think environmental data is not very well collected and also not very well reported. And so, yeah, so we arrived with this concept of environmental data as we're looking into what real problems we can solve with using crypto, DePIN, and also AIoT.
Ah, got it. That was actually one of the questions that I had in mind. Thank you very much, Joseph. So moving on to the next question. Let's talk about P Mini Smart Devices and V2 Pet AI apps. So how do these two, actually work together in practice? So can you actually explain or define how this interaction encourages ongoing data contributions from user? And why is it more engaging than other data mining systems?
Yeah, so we think that at a foundational level, devices generally need to be fun for people to use. Yes, like when you have the device, you can mine AIoT tokens by providing environmental data. That is one thing, but that in itself is not fun and engaging for people. So within the device, you can actually interact with the OKZOO V2 pet app within the device. You can feed the pets, you can interact with the pets, you can talk to the pets, and so it becomes more like a Tamagotchi sort of game device than a DePIN device. And we wanted to design the device in a way that tens of millions of people can actually use it and have fun with it before they started provide and contribute data and get and monetize the device for providing that data. Because if it's not fun and entertaining, people wouldn't use it to begin with. And I think that's also where we differ from a lot of DePIN project and crypto, where DePIN in itself can be boring if it's not fun for the users to actually utilize. And to make this long-term sustainable, if people are going to use P Mini O1, our first device, for years to come, and even our P Mini O2, the second device, for years to come, it needs to be really, really fun. So the pets inside the device, there's a level system, there's an evolution system, so the pets will evolve and level up as you feed them, as you talk to them, as you interact with them, as you keep them alive, as you take care of them. And at the same time that the pets also uh, show various emotions based on the environmental data that you collect. So for example, if you're in a highly polluted area with high levels of noise pollution, so it's very noisy. The CO2 levels are high, the humidity is high. The pet would show emotions of unsatisfaction, the pet would be uncomfortable. So the pet would actually display the emotions based on the environment, the physical environment that you're in, and it would also represent the data that you're collecting. So yeah, I think generally it just becomes more fun because for decades and decades, Tamagotchi and pet apps have been loved by so many people because they're just cute. It's light, it's casual. People like to play with it every day. And even when you go to like the Apple App Store or Google Play Store, usually the top grossing apps in terms of revenue, the apps that make the most amount of money are casual pet applications. And there are definitely a lot of young players, kids playing these games. But when you look at the demographics of these pet um, applications and games, you certainly see a lot of sort of older people, both men and women, using this. So we think, yeah, just we think that having the virtual pet application within the device that is playable and also representing the data that you collect as a DePIN device, I think that makes it more fun. And we were also thinking about obviously the monetary incentive, meaning how much money you can earn by getting this device is really important because it is a crypto project after all, and people need to be earning based on the data that they collect. But at the same time, the entertainment incentive, monetary incentive is the first thing, but the entertainment incentive, it really must be fun. And so that's where the virtual pet app comes in and makes the whole experience lighter and casual for everybody.
You actually answered one of the questions I had in mind, like why pet though? Like why not games? I do understand it's like more it's very fun. I used to beg my mother to buy me a Tamagotchi and I never actually got one. So so let's talk more about pet because I have a pet. I have a cat. So why is it not more towards Pokemon inspired style? Like I can choose my own Pokemon, or like can I design my own pet, or do I only get to choose like for example if I choose a cat and then I can only choose a white cat or like a tabby cat. Do I get to customize my pet?
Yeah, eventually, yes. So when we're going to roll out OKZOO V3 after we launch the token, and in that you'll be able to customize your pets using AI. and make it look however you want it to look. And I think when you talk about why pets, when you think about water apps or games or anything in general that people play with every day, and it's usually pet games and pet apps and pet devices. So, decades ago, people always had a Tamagotchi with them and always carried it around because they want to play with the pets. They want to make sure the pets are taken care of. And maybe a lot of people don't know this, but even in the Apple App Store today, usually the top revenue games are pet games because it just has such high retention. Because once people get attached to a pet, even if it's a virtual pet, they just want to keep it alive. They want to keep playing with it, and they want to keep making it happy. And when there's certain customizations that come in through various updates in the roadmap, I think the retention levels of P Mini devices with the virtual pets will become even higher.
Got it, got it. Thanks, Joseph. So let's head on to the next question. Thank you very much for answering my personal questions.
Yeah.
so let's talk about the next question. So OKZOO is one of the few projects with in-house hardware manufacturing. Do you mind sharing how this becomes a strategic moat for the project in terms of reliability, scalability, and competitive edge?
Yeah, when you talk about a project or a company that produces devices, and when you ask anybody what is one device, one crypto device that you use all the time, and everybody would probably say either Ledger or Trezor. And that's because you can order Ledger and Trezor today, you'll receive it next week, and just the whole process of just getting the device is very smooth. And why can Ledger and Trezor do it but nobody else? Because they have hardware manufacturing resources, exclusive resources they can do mass production with. And we have the same exclusive access. So we can actually mass produce devices, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of devices, and we can scale that up really, really quickly. And we think that this is a really good competitive advantage and also a moat that is unique to OKZOO because as OKZOO becomes popular, especially post TGE, when people learn that okay, by collecting environmental data, I can actually earn tokens, these devices are going to gain a lot of popularity. And it's one thing where the devices are in demand and people love it, but it's another thing to be able to get the supply correct. But we have high capacity to be able to supply these devices to as many people that want it. So I think this is really important. And I think for the scalability and the long-term competitive edge, this also means that we can roll out more unique devices and device models over the months and years to come. So P Mini O1 is a device that looks almost like a phone, but it's much smaller than a phone, and it behaves almost like a Tamagotchi, right? But that doesn't mean that we cannot produce rings, we cannot produce watches, we cannot produce anything. We can make anything we want, any kind of device, and we certainly are looking into developing and producing PMini 01, 02, 03, and looking into all types of devices that we can do. And that's only possible because of the exclusive access we have to hardware manufacturing. So, yeah, I think this is certainly our moat. And I think we have these access, obviously, in various countries in Asia. And I think that's also a competitive advantage because Asia has a lot of large scale factories, and we have in-house factories that we can leverage to the maximum level. So yeah, I think this certainly is a moat that we have.
Definitely. You mentioned about creating a Tamagotchi-ish with OKZoo ring. I can totally imagine somebody were to propose with a P mini. That would be so cute.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that, let's head on to the next question. So OKZoo emphasizes environmental data. Why is this type of data unique or valuable? And what are some of the most promising use cases or application directions you foresee?
Yeah, a lot of my friends and family have very sensitive throat and also lungs. So when we travel, um, we react quite sensitively to the air pollution levels. And you take certain cities, for example, like Hanoi in Vietnam and Bangkok in Thailand, and even Seoul in Korea, have very bad microdust and air pollution levels. And in these cities, if you're walking in the street, it is probably best to be wearing masks, especially during the peak air pollution times. And it's really difficult to understand the air pollution level on the internet. If you just go and type, air pollution level in this country, in this city, um, you're going to see either outdated data or data that is just collected as an average for the city. But if you think about how big Seoul is, or Bangkok is, or Tokyo is, like you'll never be able to get the air pollution data that you need in that specific area that you're going to be staying or be visiting. And obviously, environmental data also differs from day to day. So most of the average data is collected over a week or over a month, and displayed in such a way that it's very difficult to understand. And also, we cannot really verify the data is true or not, because it is not in the interest of agencies that are contracted to collect this data to make it look really bad. So in fact, most of the environmental data that you see are typically it looks better on paper than it is than it is in real life. So yeah, so we think that once people can actually see real environmental data across the world, all the cities, I think there's 10,000 cities in the world, all the cities are able to see this environmental data, then you can better prepare for day-to-day operations. For example, are you going to wear a mask, or if the CO2 level or humidity level is really high, how you're going to deal with that. So I think it just helps people on a day-to-day basis with real environmental data that is not biased, and that is not inaccurate.
Got it. With that, I have a follow-up question. So, because you keep mentioning air pollution and how your friends and family are quite sensitive to uh, air pollution and dust and all, so does OKZoo prioritizes air pollution data? So, for somebody as anxious as I am, so for example, if I were to go to Indonesia or like go to Japan, I am actually very worried about earthquake. So, will OKZoo collect earthquake data and show it to their users as well. So how does this work? And for example, if I plan to go to Japan and then I just go to OKZoo app and just search it up.
Yeah, so I was actually in Bangkok when the big earthquake happened
Oh
a few
dang.
weeks ago. And when I just ran down from 30th floor to the ground floor and just waiting with everybody sitting on the ground, nobody knew where to get data from, because when an earthquake happens, there's always aftershocks that come. And if nobody is reporting that on real time, it is very difficult to know have the aftershocks already happened, and is it safe to go back into the building, into the hotel that you're in. And with the OKZ device, because it is a device, and not just a router or a charger or something, it's an actual device. That means that people can actually download applications. So one thing we're developing at the moment is actually people being able to provide different types of data, including like earthquake data. So when it comes to earthquake, it really helps when people are reporting aftershocks in certain areas, because then people will be able to know, okay, like the first 3 or 4 aftershocks have already happened. You know, we think that it's going to be safe to go out, rather than waiting for hours and hours for the government to give official data on, okay, like there's going to be an aftershock after 3 hours and 4 hours. For example, in Thailand, at least from my area, nobody really felt any aftershock after the first big wave happened. And so, when you have these OKZoo devices and you're able to see, okay, nobody's really reporting aftershocks, that actually helps more than anything, because publications like news outlets, it's gonna be outdated, because the way that they receive the data is it's not real time, so it's gonna be delayed for an hour or two. So when it comes to earthquakes, wildfires, etc., there are going to be ways in the device to report those kind of data as well, which makes it really um, useful for people.
Okay, got it. So for those of you like me who don't know what's an aftershock, so aftershock is a smaller earthquake following the main shock of a large earthquake. I did not know that. I just had to search it up. So thank you very much, Joseph. So let's head on to the next question. If you don't mind, let's talk tokenomics. Aside from mining rewards, what are the other key functions of the AIoT token? So does it support things like staking, governance, or in-app utility within the ecosystem?
Yeah, because devices are essentially DePIN devices. So when you provide environmental data, when you provide data into the network, you'll be earning tokens for contributing to that data. So essentially, every device is going to have um, an ROI. So I think that's going to be the main usage of the token. For us, um, we are very sensitive towards what is the actual use case of the token, because when you have, for example, like platforms or tokens, um, other than like revenue that is being distributed to the token typically doesn't have much utility for us because it is a network of machines and all machines need to be incentivized. So the OKZOO token actually becomes the native currency of the entire AIoT machine network. So OKZOO token is used to incentivize every machine. OKZOO token is used between the devices to send each other incentives. And so OKZOO is just going to be the native token of the network. Obviously, there's going to be staking. So when you stake, you earn the AIoT device with which you can earn by contributing data. There's going to be governance for introducing new applications. There's going to be in-app usage of the OKZOO token within the device to be able to upgrade your pets, to be able to upgrade into premium levels, so you can get access to more apps, etc. So, I think compared to the average token in crypto, I think AIoT token will have many more utilities, and I think it'll be a bit more natural to people to understand that okay, it's a network of machines, and every machine needs to be incentivized somehow, and you need a token for that. Because what the reason why there cannot be this big network of devices in Web 2 is because it is very difficult to incentivize people by bank transfers. It just doesn't happen. And also, there's a lot of countries around the world that do not have access to stable banking services. So in that case, I think AIoT token really helps in incentivizing every device and also supporting, obviously, things like staking governance, and also in-app usage of the token.
Ah, understood. Thank you very much. So, for users who want to get involved, what are the main ways to acquire P-Mini hardware? I actually want to ask this as well. So, what exactly is the role of PNFT? Is it just a credential or does it serve deeper functions in the system?
So in the beginning, right after the TGE, we're going to make P Mini available for all the stakers. So in the beginning, we're not going to sell the P Mini device. We're going to just give P Mini devices to all the top stakers. We are targeting 10,000 stakers to give the P Mini devices. Um, as we go, a month or two after the TGE, we're going to introduce NFT collection called PNFT, which is a new NFT standard that we designed called physical NFT. And the NFT collection will not be sold on day one. It's gonna be auctioned off day after day after day. So it's gonna be a collection of 1,000 NFTs, and it's gonna be sold across 3 years, and it's gonna be auctioned. One will be auctioned every day, so 365 NFTs every year. Why we did the NFTs? Because we also wanted to provide OKZOO stakers with the chance of getting, let's say, a membership into the OKZOO network, so that when you hold the NFT, you get the P Mini O1, you get the P Mini O2, the O3. So all the devices in the future that OKZOO produces, it's dropped to every single NFT holder. So the NFT is also another way to get it. And a month or two after the TGE, that is the time where we're going to sell the devices publicly through distribution channels, so that if people love the OKZOO device and they don't necessarily want to buy the token and stake, they can simply go and buy the device through different distribution partners online, just like how you can buy a ledger, for example. So we're gonna do that. So there'll be three ways to get the device.
Got it. So you guys heard it first. They are not gonna sell P meeting devices at first. So it's for the stakers. So I actually have another question, if you don't mind. Why is it called physical NFT? Is it like the NFT is physically like bought, or will I get a card, or how is it gonna be like?
We call it a physical NFT because every NFT is linked to a physical device. And by holding the physical NFT, you get all physical devices from OKZOO. So if you're a physical NFT holder, you get all the physical devices, the O1, O2, O3, all the different models that we design. You all get it for free if you hold the NFT. And that's also the
Mm.
reason why we don't just sell like 10,000 collection or something. We auction it off every day, um, for 3 years to make it a 1,000 collection and make it a little bit exclusive.
Ah, that's actually very interesting. That's a very new model. Would be interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you
exactly.
very much. Yeah. So for those of you who are interested, please do go check it out. So finally, what's on the horizon for OKZOO in the near future, or like in the near term? So I believe actually we can actually see the comments. So many people are curious about, you know, how to buy the hardware, how to start using the app, or like just about user onboarding. I am actually curious as well. So are there any like exciting updates or like upcoming launches we should watch out for?
Yeah, so just for me to recap, because I think there's a lot of people that newly joined in.
Yeah.
In order to get the device, there's three ways. First is become a staker, when we're gonna drop the devices to all the top stakers. Number two is buying the physical NFT that we will launch after the TGE, and the third is eventually a month or two after the TGE, we're going to sell the devices through a distributor network, and so people will be able to just order and buy just like how they order and buy a ledger. So those are the three ways you can get the device. In terms of the roadmap, the first thing after the TGE is that we're going to enable the environmental data network so that people can actually start distributing the environmental data into the AIoT machine network. That's the first item. And the second item in the roadmap, which is like a month to a month and a half after the TGE, we're going to enable the mass production, which means that anybody could buy an AIoT device of OKZOO at any time, just like how they buy a ledger. And that's actually going to be important because the third roadmap item is that we're going to release the P Mini O2, the second model device, which is going to be a much different looking device, but that will also be able to mass produce because we already have established the mass production for the P Mini O1. So in terms of roadmap, we have the AIoT environmental network that is going live, the P Mini O1 mass production, introduction of P Mini O2, P Mini O2 mass production, and also launching OKZOO V3, which we're thinking about doing like a virtual sort of you know pet application that I think people have never seen before in crypto. So we have all these roadmap items that are coming out. So I think people will be very excited as we go after the TGE, and we're going to hinting at a lot of these roadmap items as well. And right after the TGE, we're also going to share the full roadmap of OKZOO in the first year, the second year, etc. So people can see all the long term and also the short term plans that we have in OKZOO.
Got it. After hearing your answers, I am excited as well. So with that, how does somebody become a staker at OKZoo?
Yeah. So once we TGE, we're going to have a staking portal in the OKZOO website where anybody will be able to stake the token. So yeah, it's gonna be very easy. Um, and just for me to look at the comments and address some of the comments. So I think there's a lot of people asking about, for example, why don't you just build the app on the App Store? We will do that once we have the mass production of the P Mini O1 device, mainly because in the beginning we want to make the virtual pet app exclusive to the AIoT devices. But once we have mass production with hundreds of thousands of devices worldwide, then that's the time that we can just release the V2 app into the App Store and get anybody to use it, even the mobile phone. But mobile phones don't have micro environmental sensors in them, so it's also not a very good match in the beginning.
Do you mind sharing what's a microenvironmental sensor?
Yeah, so in order to collect data like CO2 level or noise pollution level or air pollution level or humidity level, you cannot just do it with your mobile phone because you need to have sensors in them. And if you put those kind of sensors in a mobile phone, your mobile phone will become so thick that you wouldn't be able to carry around. So either you have a very high performance device like your mobile phone, or you have a device that is specifically designed to be able to collect this data. So with P-Mini O1 and all OKZOO devices, we're going to have these mini micro sensors in them that actually can sense and collect data about air pollution, noise pollution, and CO2 levels, and all these things.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. But I have another question if you don't mind. It's about privacy. Is it okay if I were to ask the question?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. So it's about privacy. There are a lot of users or like projects out there are like talking about how they can make their product more private for their users or like make privacy more transparent in some ways. How can they protect their users? Um, do you mind sharing how OKZoo is combating this issue?
Yeah, I think for us, environmental data is not very sensitive data. So I think it's not as sensitive as like monetary data or personal data. But that's actually one of the reasons why we based all the AIoT devices on a pet rather than a real person's identity. because
Oh,
if you say, I'll just say a random name, like let's say like Bob from Tokyo is showing this kind of environmental data. uh, it's a little bit weird for people to see it. But if you say, this pet number 7 is showing this kind of environmental data, it doesn't risk the identity of the person that is providing the data. So that is also the one of the reasons why we we had a virtual pet represent every device rather than a real person, because we wanted to protect everybody's identity based on that. Because with environmental data, maybe people could try to deduce it down to a specific location and try to find the identity of the person behind the device, etc. And so we didn't want that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's why every device is represented by a pet rather than a real person.
and it's fun.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's actually very thoughtful of the team to think about that. Um, okay, I probably don't have any other questions, personal questions of my own. Do you want to check out our comment section?
Yeah, sure. Aranj Tip says, "What makes OKZoo's approach to that pin unique?" So I think this is something that I covered earlier in the AMA, but I think our approach to that pin is a lot more interesting and meaningful in the sense that people can play with virtual pets, and it's just genuinely fun to be able to play with pets and interact with them and care for them and grow them. And at the same time, by providing environmental data, and we will have an API for all the data that users bring. And when applications use the API to use the environmental data to come up with different applications, obviously users have to be incentivized by providing the data. And so every person holding the device that's providing environmental data into the machine network is monetized through that. And I think it also makes more sense as a DePIN network because I think a lot of DePIN projects in crypto are just sending just some hardware device to users, and the users are not necessarily providing much uh, contributions, and then they're getting rewarded. And as a result, the token value goes down because there's meaningless dilution of the token. For us, because all the users are actually giving out really important environmental data, and they're being incentivized for the work that they do, it makes the network much more sustainable. So then it would be the OKZOO Foundation's job and responsibility to monetize all the environmental data that the users bring so that we can monetize all the device holders using the OKZOO token, the AIoT token. So I think that's going to be an important uh, edge that we have in the world of DePIN, that users are actually doing something meaningful, users are getting monetized for doing meaningful things, and also users are having fun in doing that.
It's fun, meaningful, adds meaning to your life, and you have a pet. Why not?
Exactly.
So, one weird question: will my pet die in P meaning?
Will the what?
Will my pet, let's call it Bob as well, die in P meaning if I don't feed him or her?
Well, every pet will have a hard time if you don't feed them, so you should feed them. Yeah, you should feed them.
But it's not for sure. Okay. So, another question that I have, we kind of touched on it just now. Is it that everybody can have access to the environmental data? Like, is the data transparent?
The data is going to be transparent. So, in fact, in the AIoT machine network of OKZOO, there's going to be another hardware called validator nodes. And the validator nodes are going to be verifying the environmental data before it gets sent on chain to the BNB chain, which we exclusively support BNB chain, by the way. So when the devices are showing data, and let's say, for example, again, like Bob from Tokyo put his device into a microwave and is showing crazy numbers that is clearly different from all the people around him that are using the device, then something is wrong. So it would be the validator's job to pinpoint the data and say we need to double check this before we send it to on chain. So we have a network of validators that check the environmental data for any potential uh, manipulated data, and then it gets sent on chain to the BNB chain.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I have never thought of a user putting the devices into a microwave to mine.
Exactly, or like the user might bring that device into the sauna, and it's so hot and so humid, and the humidity level is through the roof, and it wouldn't really make much sense to say the humidity level, I don't know, in Thailand is so high or something. So we will have validators that check the data for any um, inaccurate readings before it gets sent to on chain.
So technically, after buying that data, I can just leave it at home.
Yeah, exactly. You can, because
Oh,
we serve both. We like to say OKZoo supports both street level and household data. So for example, for household data, you have things like temperature, humidity, and CO2 levels. Um, and also air quality within the house is really important, especially if you're in cities with very high air pollution levels. It means your home can also have high air pollution levels, and when you have that, your nose your nose can get blocked, your throat can be swollen, and you can have a lot of different issues. But street level data, things like noise pollution and air pollution in the street, can also be read. So yeah, it can be used for both household and then street.
that's interesting. So, does it work like for example, if I were to put a device in my house and I technically have a lot of cat fur flying around, does it detect that?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I have a cat in my house, and that's why I have a really big air quality because I also have my my kid, and kids can be very sensitive to cat fur because cat fur is very thin, so you can actually breathe in cat fur and it causes irritation in the nose. But air um, uh, sort of air, I don't know how you call it, but air quality machines or something, they can actually suck in all the cat fur to clean the air. So yeah, so the device would detect that as well.
Air purifier?
Yeah, air purifiers, exactly.
Ah, okay. I Mine is actually in repair, so there's a lot of fur flying around at the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Um.
like your virtual pet would say like, hey, like we need an air purifier in the house, like the air pollution is not good in the house.
Oh. Okay. 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 That's cool. Okay. We have around 15 minutes left. Do you want to go through the comments section? Because I see comments coming in. If you're okay with it, you can go to the restream uh, page, and there's like three buttons down below. You can click on the little button, which shows comments, and you can actually scroll them through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the first question from Universe, OKZoo recently hit impressive user numbers. What were behind key growth drivers behind the surge? So OKZoo actually has 12 million users in total, including both OKZoo V1 and OKZoo V2. And that was the hypothesis we had early on, which was, do people still really love casual pet games even in crypto? Because we know they love it in Web 2. We've seen it. We've done so much analysis of Apple App Store games with the pets, and we've done so many campaigns with regional KOLs. So, for example, we have KOLs from Poland, from Korea, from Turkey, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, all these regions. And in the beginning, we had around, we kind of started around like 70, 80,000 users, and then it suddenly grew very, very fast to 3, 4 million. And then it kept growing and growing. So, yeah, like regional KOL campaigns were really important for us because in key uh, environments like Turkey, Indonesia, Philippines, Korea, OKZoo is very, very popular, especially the pet device. Um, Somebody asked where would be the line between using the AIoT and the AIoT token. So basically, if you're using the AIoT device and contributing data to the network, then you're gonna be monetized using the AIoT token. So basically, your AIoT device will have an ROI and will continue to mine tokens, to mine the AIoT tokens. Yeah, I think that's most of the questions.
Yeah, technically that's around it. So, is before we were to end this AMA, is there anything else that you want to mention, or you want to show?
Yeah, I think if you guys think the P Mini O1 is really cool, the P Mini O2 is even much cooler. I think it's something that people would not expect at all, which is also why we're keeping it a secret until post TG. But the P Mini O2 device is gonna be very, very, very cool.
Yeah. So we good?
Yeah,
Yeah. So with that, let me just do my closing. So thank you very much, Joseph, uh, for allowing this AMA to happen, and for sharing what's OKZoo, and for telling us what's the next steps for OKZoo. And I am sure that not only this potato, everybody else is excited for the newest version to come out. So that brings us to the end of an exciting AMA. So thank you very much, Joseph Young from OKZoo, and thank you very much to all of our audiences. And we actually do see your comments that comes in. Joseph actually do see all your comments, and so let me wrap it up. So today we have explored how OKZoo is reshaping DePIN by fusing AIoT with environmental sensing, gamifying user engagement via pet AI, creating a competitive moat through in-house hardware, and powering the whole ecosystem with AIoT tokens and PNFTs. So it's more than just mining. OKZOO is creating a data-driven world where participation is meaningful, engaging, fun, creating meaning into technically everybody's lives. So once again, huge major thanks to Joseph, co-founder of OKZOO, for joining us and sharing the vision. And once again, thank you all in the community for sharing your questions and support. Please do stay tuned for exciting updates on P-Mini hardware accesses, pet AI V2 features, and physical NFTs, and how you can start participating. Do not forget to follow OKZoo's Twitter and join all of their social media and be a part of OKZoo community. So until next time, have a splendid week. Bye.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.